The great resignation. It's upon us. It's also being called the big quit. So in today's video, I'm going to give you some things to think about if you are considering leaving your job. And I will be the first to say, go for it, because it's exactly what I did 3 years ago. But there are some things to consider that can really set you up for success if you are someone that is planning to leave your job or desperately wants out. So if you'd like some tips on how to do this responsibly so you're not stressed and end up right back at another job, keep on watching. First, sit down and think about why you really want to quit. If it has something to do directly with the job that you're in, maybe you can first seek a manager or supervisor's help if they're not the source of the problem, right? But maybe there's a higher level position that can help with trying to sort through what the true issue is and maybe find a solution, or maybe even a different position within your company or different responsibilities or something like that. There might be a way to solve the issue and stay with your current employer, but still fix the problem. The second thing you want to do before quitting is check your company's financial health. Make sure you're not on schedule for some Christmas bonuses or a quarterly bonus. Basically, you don't want to leave money on the table, right? In this process, you also want to check your vesting schedule for your 401k if you do have one, or a company retirement plan, because sometimes the money that's put aside for you, if you have a match of some sort, it's not always fully vested, meaning it's not always yours until a certain time frame. Usually it's like 1 year or maybe 3 years of being with the employer, and sometimes there's a vesting schedule. When I was at E-Trade, it was like you're 50% vested after 1 year, and then every quarter or year there's like a 25% increase in the vesting until maybe 3 years later where you're 100% vested, meaning all the money that the employer has put in your retirement plan is yours to take. And I wouldn't stay with an employer specifically to receive that vesting, because you can ask your next employer to maybe do something to make up for the money you left on the table potentially. But if you're pretty close to hitting one of those vesting schedules, then you might want to at least stay to receive that next bump. On the other hand, you also do want to see how much of the money that's in your retirement plan is yours. And if it's a lot and you want to receive that money, you might want to go ahead and stay so that you can receive 100% of all of that money. But if it's not that much, it might not be a big deal. I left about $5,000 on the table when I left E-Trade, but to me it wasn't worth staying another year to receive that additional $5,000. But it could be for you, depending on your finances, depending on how much is sitting on the table. So be sure to check that before you just peace out. Step number 3 is to research other companies. See if they have happy employees, if they have a good work-life balance, or if they have the things that you are lacking from your current employer. In that process, you're also asking yourself, do you want to work for another employer? Do you want to be an entrepreneur? There are so many things, right? So really thinking through what it is that you want, and then researching different positions that can fulfill those needs that you weren't getting from your current employer. And of course, see if they're hiring. If they're not hiring, then maybe you wait. It's typically easier to get a job if you already have a job. So if you're leaving for another job, it might be worth it to just go through interview processes and really try to line up that next job before you leave your current situation. If you're doing that, I would really encourage you to push your start date out a little if there's any flexibility. So maybe you give yourself a little break from the time you leave your current employer to when you get hired at your new employer, because you might not want to just jump from a Friday to a Monday to a brand new employer. You might want some downtime, and this is a really great opportunity to take that for yourself. That might mean unpaid time off, so of course run it in your budget and see if you could even afford to do that. But if so, I would highly encourage taking some time, especially if you're burnt out from your last job. You might not want to just jump right into a new job before taking some personal time to just chill out for a second, take care of some things that you've left on the table. Step number 4 is to check your own personal finances. Where do you stand with your retirement accounts, your emergency fund, your spending? How much money do you have to float you if you don't get hired right away? Or if you do want to just take your own sabbatical, have your own time off. That's totally fine and really healthy to do if you don't completely destroy your financial life in the process, because that could just leave you a lot more stressed than you were in the beginning. When I knew I wanted to leave corporate America, I saved up for 2 years before doing so. I really ran my numbers and I asked myself how much I needed to support myself as I started my business so that I wouldn't have to run to another job or be desperate for making income, so that I could actually give myself some space to create and figure out my business plan and all of that stuff. So I saved for 2 years, and I really wanted to have 1 to 2 years of income where I didn't have to make income, but could just fund myself, right? So I would be borrowing from myself during that time. It's exactly what I did when I first quit my job. But even prior to that, I first got into a position where I was making a lot of money. So I increased my income before I started doing all this so that I could save a bunch of money so that I could quit. I went through a longer thought process. You might not have the patience to do all of that stuff depending on why it is you're leaving. I was strategically leaving so that I could build my own business. But if you're leaving because you just have to get the heck out of there, you might not want to stay for 2 more years trying to figure it all out when you could just find a better situation in a much shorter time frame. But still, make sure that you can cover your short-term bills that are coming up. And when you're looking at all of this, you don't want to consider your emergency fund as what you're going to live off of if you can help it, right? So it's still nice to have that emergency fund because there might be a true emergency besides just covering your bills. Try to keep at least 3 months of expenses in a true emergency fund for you, and then save on top of that, or see what you have to work with on top of that, so that you can get that time off that's needed. But I do like to think of money as flowing. It's not a finite resource. It can be replenished. You can work on increasing it, but you do want to take these things into consideration to set yourself up for success so it's less stressful for you through this whole process. And lastly, talk through this with your friends and family and people that you trust, people that you look up to in their current life situation. You don't want to ask somebody that you don't really want to be in their position anyways, right? But if you have people in your life that you value their opinion because they have the lifestyle you want, or you respect their decision-making process, ask them their thoughts. It's always good to have a second person to run your ideas by. But that being said, it's your decision at the end of the day. A lot of people can be really negative and fearful about quitting because some people feel very, very safe in having that job, that steady paycheck, whereas you might not feel that way. So yes, it's great to talk to friends and family because they might bring up points and additional things for you to consider. Like watching this YouTube video, it's a great thing to just kind of think through these things because there might be something that I said today that you didn't think about that can just help you feel really good as you go into this next phase of life. If you have any questions or anything, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck in your pursuit because, YOLO, we only have one life. I want you to live the best life possible, and be sure to subscribe while you're here. Have a good one. See you later.